So hi class, for today, we'll be discussing about our last final topic for this quarter, which is resource resource mobilization approach. So ito na yung last topic natin sa community engagement, solidarity, and citizenship. No? After nito, we're good. Hopefully we're good. So the thing with resource mobilization is, well, yes, meron na tayong profile, meron tayong needs assessment, naisip na natin na makapag-implement na tayo. However, there's an important step when it comes to actually implementing a community engagement activity. While this is more of medyo conceptual yung approach nito, it's very important to understand na when it comes to resource mobilization or resource mobilization, kung paano gagamitin yung resources mo, paano mo sila i-mobilize, paano mo sila i-utilize, is very critical dun sa success ng gagawing community engagement activity. Or in this case, social movements. Kasi itong approach na to ay nakapaloob talaga sa social movements. Pero in our case, pwede mo rin siyang i-apply sa community engagement activities. So it focuses on assets and capacities of aggrieved groups to explain the rise, development, and outcome of social movements, or even the outcome of community engagement activities. So it stresses the ability of an organization to procure assets, no? Kumuha ng assets, magkaroon ng assets, and resources, no? And mobilize individuals towards achieving their set goals. So, yes, nakapag-community profile tayo. Community profile, nakapag-needs assessment. Then we are now ready to implement the program, the plan, the proposal. However, we need to understand that resource mobilization helps us to understand that the proper use, proper appropriation of resources and utilization of resources is very critical para ma-achieve natin yung goal natin. So, effective utilization of resources is a determinant of the success of a social movement or, again, a community engagement activity. Drawing on the rational choice approach, I hope familiar pa kayo sa rational choice approach, no? Sa inyong HUM05, resources are defined broadly to include tangible resources such as money and facilities, intangible resources such as solidarities, cultural commitments, identity networks of groups that facilitate their pooling of resources. Take note, dahil rational approach ito, doon pupuntahan ko rin naman mamaya, nakaangkla siya dito, they think that people act rationally, meaning people act based on decisions. Objective, sound decision. Ibig sabihin, hindi kikilos ang isang tao when it comes to social movements or community engagement activity dahil trip niya lang. Hindi ka pupunta sa komunidad para mag-yay, makipagkamay-kamay ka kahit kanina tapos magpapakain ka ng basta-basta na lang. Meron siyang proseso, okay? Meron siyang prosesong susundin. And dahil it's based upon the rational choice, sound decisions are important. Individuals having specific how do you call this, no? Specific tasks, specialized task, and there is a organized, no? Organized, how do you call this? Organizational structure rather on how to properly execute a program, a proposal. So when it comes to specific types of resources, so kanina pinag-usapan natin two general types, the tangible at intangible. Now we have 5 specific types ng resources na part ng resource mobilization approach. First is material resources. So tangible resources ito, katulad kanina, money, location of the organization to meet, physical supplies necessary for an organization to run and to conduct community engagement activity. Then So, material resources, ito yung, ito yung pinakamadaling matandaan kasi ito yung mga tangible na bagay. Pera, gamit, no? Transpo, yan, ganyan, na even, information, data, that can be part, no, ng material resources. Although merong mas specific mamaya sa information, pero pwede rin kasing tignan, lalo kung yung information naman is outside of the community. But the thing is, meron ding tinatawag na human resources, labor needed, either voluntary or paid, to conduct an organization's activities. So, human resources are the, individuals, the people, who are being mobilized to conduct the community engagement activity. Typically, volunteer, lalo kung non-profit organization, or paid, or through merits. Halimbawa, sa inyo, as students, ang bayad sa inyo ay merit, no? Grades. So, maging part kayo ng human resources kung magsasagawa kayo ng engagement activity. We also have social organizational resources which are used to build your social network. So, the list of people who support the cause, social media accounts, pwede rin siguro to. Para mapalawak, no? Mapalawak yung cause. Para mas, tawag dito, mas maraming ma-reach yung inyong programa. Halimbawa, pwede rin siguro yung tawag dito, change.org, no? Pwede natin gamitin yung change.org to, tawag dyan, mas mapalawak pa yung reach ng ating, as part, para mas mapalawak pa yung reach ng ating community engagement activity, which is part of the social organizational resources. It's about building networks kasi, social networks. We also have cultural resources. Dito pasok yung information na binabanggit ko kanina. Includes knowledge necessary to conduct organizations' activities. So, primarily, yung mga intra-organizational policies, guidelines, or even the knowledge, cultural knowledge na manggagaling doon sa community na pagsasagawan mo ng activity. Okay, so yung community profile can be part of the cultural resources, lalo kung yan is may mga specific na data na nanggaling mismo doon sa komunidad. Mula mismo din sa, halimbawa, nagsagawa ng interview sa mga committee members, that's part of cultural resources. It also includes media products such as books or news articles. Take note, pag sinabi natin cultural resources kasi it's all about knowledge and information eh. Lalo na dun sa may kinalaman, parang mali yung wordings ko pero dun sa mayroong kinalaman sa activity, okay? And organization. Then we have moral resources. Ito, I think material resources, again, madaling mas maintindihan. Human resources, same. Social organizational, again, these are resources that are used to build networks. Papalawak yung scope, yung extent no, or community engagement activity or social movement. Cultural resources, knowledges necessary para magsagawa ng organizational activities and achieve the goals. Can include media products. And ito, moral resources. Ito yung isa sa mga intangible Intangible ito in a way na those which help the organization to be seen as legitimate. Ibig sabihin, mga kung familiar tayo sa BLM, Black Lives Matter na movement, yung pag-speak out ng mga apektadong individual using the social media as a platform to make it a global movement is pwede ma-consider natin na part ng moral resources. Celebrities endorsing a specific yung nangyari sa Amerika elections, kaya natalo yung incumbent president, ex-former president na pala. Dahil may mga nagsalita yung mga tao, they use their voice, mga influencers, tawag dito, celebrities to speak out their minds, because the thing is, they are influencers, both celebrities and social media influencers. When they speak out, people will listen. And if they're speaking out on behalf of a certain cause, people may be spurred to learn more about the organization, the views, more positively, or even become constituents ng mga programa or even ng actual na aktibidad na pinopromote nung moral resource na yon. So the thing with resource mobilization, it considers social development, no, yung mga pag-unlad sa lipunan, as made by sensible social organizations with an objective of making political moves. Take note, when we talk about political moves, is not necessarily na yung negatibo na political, but it's about making influential decisions. Change, no? Promoting social change din. As such, tinitingnan ng resource mobilization approach na yung mga organizations ay rather, yung social developments, yung mga pag-unlad, minor man ito, as long as pag-unlad sa lipunan, ay ginawa ng mga grupo dahil this was their aim, their objective all along. To influence, incite change, no? Make, influence decision making, and a nutshell, again, make a political stand. It also expects that people are rational. Ito yung nabanggit ko kanina. Rational in a way that people measure the expenses and advantages of movement, participation, and act just if advantages exceeds cost. Meaning, sumasali ka sa mga volunteer, bawa nagkaroon nitong tawag dito, mga volunteer donation drive for the those affected by a series of typhoons na mga kababayan natin sa buong Luzon and even sa Visayas, no? Primarily sa Bicol at sa Region 2, na itong pagsama mo dito, because again, people are rational, you are sound, objective individuals, you're doing this because it's based on reason, rationality. Ginagawa mo ito because the advantages exceeds the cost. Kaya nagbibigay ka sa isang grupo na ito kasi kahit gumagastos ka, you know that the advantages of doing volunteer work, providing donating something to those who are in need, is that of a sensible action. Okay? So that, in addition din, no, those actions created by social organizations or community engagement activities na lang, na para mas madali, na ginagawa ng mga organizations is that of a rational activity. Na ginagawa mo to in order to primarily as a political move, but political move in a way na hindi primarily negative. But again, to influence change, no? Kasi change at the same time, empowerment of community members is to some extent a political, no? A political stance. So, social developments also are goal-oriented, no? Yung pag-unlad under resource mobilization approach are goal-oriented. However, organization is more essential than assets. While yes, part ng resource mobilization yung paggamit ng resources, organization per se is, or how the organization will utilize the resources is more essential than the assets. Ang weird lang, no? Dahil resource mobilization, yung theory, pero mas, yung approach, pero mas malalim yung emphasis sa organisasyon, because the thing with resource mobilization is, this happens because social organizations are making moves to actualize this particular approach. So efficiency of the organization, infrastructure, or organization as a whole is a key asset in itself. Kaya minsan, when it comes to making donations, no, as an example na lang din, people tend to do parang provide, no, magbigay dun sa mga non-profit organizations na may magandang track record, say sabihin na lang Red Cross, or hindi ko sure yung iba, sorry, Ibon Foundation, yan, ganyan. because they have a better track record in a more efficient organization style na walang mga nawawala, walang mga parang under the table. No offense compared sa government, kasi alam natin yung nangyari with Typhoon Yolanda, na dala ng mga tao na ang daming mga resources na dapat ay pamigay sana sa mga sinantalang bagyo, pero wala, natenga somewhere, nabulok somewhere, ang daming perang nawala. That's why people, those who want to donate, go to non-profit organizations or even sa mga smaller non-profit organizations that nakita nyo na every step na ginagawa nila ay documented. So, alam mo na yung donation na binigay mo ay talagang makakarating sa mga nais nitong matulungan. Ang isang maganda example is yung sa dati kong colleague ko from former colleague ko sa MCL before, nasa na siya ngayon sa Alabang, si Sir Mac, which isa siya sa mga founder ng Pluma ni Juan, which is basically a non-profit organization na ito, kung nagkakamali, na ang aim talaga nila before is to provide school supplies, then to far-flung communities. Nowadays mas lumawak na sila, they are even helping when it comes to donation drives sa mga naapektuhan ng typhoon, which is very kasi successful din based din sa sa pagtingin ko sa kanilang accounts, which is kasi nga bawat movement nila ay detalyado, nakikita mo yung mga nangyayari and may transparency, kasi for organization infrastructure to be efficient, transparency is a key, na nakikita mo lahat nangyayari. So there are two versions of resource mobilization. It can be in the form of economical, wherein collective activity is a consequence of economic aspects. So access to and control over assets is the most important factor. So the laws and supply of supply and demand clarify the flow of assets to and from the movements, and that individual theories or rather activities are represented by sound decision theory. Typically, yung economical aspect ng resource mobilization ay mas nag-a-apply sa mga larger organizations, mga larger organizations in a way that solid na yung kanilang foundation, solid na yung kanilang guidelines, yung kanilang organizational structure, na meron na silang sinusundang proseso kung paano gagawin ang lahat. That's why naka-angkla na lamang ito sa yung pagsasagawa ng mga aktibidades dun sa available resources, available assets na meron sila na gagamitin sa isang specific na community engagement activity or even social movement. Second is the political one. So when it comes to political aspect of resource mobilization, it spotlights on the political battle. By battle, it can focus on decision making, influences, organizational structure, rather than the financial components. However, dahil most organizations are utilizing both political and economical or economic aspects ng resource mobilization in order to provide an efficient implementation of community engagement activities. So the rise and outcome of movements are shaped by the interactions of strategies with political opportunities. Again, the political opportunities is all about achieving a certain goal. And that goal is very determinant on what particular community engagement activity or which specific community that an organization aims to reach out. So its importance, panghuli na lamang, it guarantees the continuation of organizations, administration, procurement to its stakeholders. So patuloy, through resource mobilization or a proper resource mobilization, it guarantees, parang ginagarantiya niya yung patuloy na pag-flow ng assets from one stakeholder to another. So kung halimbawa, nagsagawa kayo ng engagement activity na isa na 6 months, sabihin natin, so half a year na endeavor, by monthly pupunta kayo doon, pero hindi naman nyo kayang pumunta doon talaga by monthly, lahat kayo, kung may maayos na resource, kung may maayos na application ng resource mobilization approach, then kahit hindi kayo pumunta doon, yung mga ma-assign sa inyo will be able to follow through with your actions. Okay? Yung pagpo-procure ng mga halimbawa, mamimigay din ng face mask sa area yun nga, by monthly, sa may stakeholders na maapektuhan or key stakeholders na matutulungan ninyo. Patuloy yung pagsasagawa ng programa. Hindi siya mapuputol ng biglaan na lamang na yung community nagulat, ba't hindi na dumating ito? Ang usapan ay 6 months. Okay? Kasi maayos yung flow, no? May continuation yung procurement process, yung pag-produce, no, paglalabas ng mga assets para ma-reach nito yung mga stakeholders. It also supports organizational stability, primarily because through a proper efficient mobilization or utilization of resources, mas nagiging sustainable, no? Sustainable yung ating organization. So sustainable siya in a way that you are framing this based on its possible impacts dun sa social, environmental, and overall political, economical climate ng lugar kung saan kayo nagsasagawa ng community engagement activity. That is, it has a long-term gain. Kasi nga, ang aim ng community engagement activities, empowerment. So, through proper resource mobilization, yung sustainability ay maaabot mo dahil, una sa lahat, it's a long-term endeavor. Hindi siya isang bagsakan na lang. Dahil nga efficient yung pagpoproduce ng goods, magkakaroon ng organizational, hindi lamang doon sa organization, but even with the community, mas ma-achieve yung sustainability, which is nowadays a very important part ng any organizations, non-profit man yan or for profit, when it comes to longevity na din, pagtagal ng organisasyon at pagpatuloy ng pagsasagawa ng programa at maayos na relasyon with its stakeholders. Also, it takes into account scale up and improvement of engagement activity currently offered by the organization. Because again, may transparency when it comes to the usage of resources, maayos na paggamit. Alam mo kung ano yung mga specific resources. Alam mo na ito ay may advantages, you are doing this based on sound decisions, based on reason, efficiency. Alam mo, it takes into account scaling up or improvement. Ibig sabihin, because you know the overall flow, alam mo kung saan napupunta yung resources, you'll be able to grasp where can we improve. Halimbawa, nagsimula ka sa pagbibigay lamang ng feeding program. Nagsimula yung kumunid nyo sa pagbibigay ng feeding program. But because there's a proper inflow and outflow of resources, you'll be able to assess na pwede pa nating improve to. Gawin natin halimbawa, magpaano tayo, okay, hindi na lang more on feeding program, pero magbigay na rin tayo ng health supplements, because again, the resources are properly utilized, properly used for the sake of the engagement activity. Then you also have organization both in private and public sectors must be in the business of creating new businesses to stay in business. So the thing here is, it's in a nutshell na lang, para hindi masyadong maging business per se yung approach. For community engagement activities, it's all about creating relationships. Okay? Hindi ka lang gagawa ng isang aktibidad dahil one-off again na activity ito, o dahil trip mo lang. Kaya may maganda din na programa, yung MCL, when it comes to community engagement, is because it's a long-term process and they have various connections. Okay, they are willing to expand kung sino yung magiging part ng networks nila, sino yung mas makapagbigay sila ng additional resources, mga companies na willing na mag-sponsor para mas ma-improve yung gagawin nilang engagement activity because they're willing to broaden their reach, no? Be more accommodating dun sa mga other stakeholders na gusto maging part ng pagsagawa ng engagement activities sa mga komunidad. Yung apat na yun, yung mga importansya ng maayos na paggamit or pag-mobilize ng resources under the resource mobilization approach.